Good morning. No. Good night. Good day, people. Good ninth episode, everyone, guys.
Woohoo, we made it.
Welcome to Immersive Talks. I'm here with Jen,
Hey.
and I'm Marco from Immersive Arts. And we have a glass of wine each in our hands. The weather is shit outside in Berlin. It's
It
very
really
cold
is.
and rainy, super annoying. So, wanted to cheers to
Cheers to
episode
episode 9.
9.
99999.
999.
Inglorious Bastards reference for those who don't know.
And many other references, history references.
We won't get into it.
Then we don't want to get into. So today, we want to talk about one of the things that we mentioned a little bit in the previous episode. We talked about
The virtual playground.
Yeah, we talked about Habitat, which was an exhibition that we did here in Berlin, and we talked about some of the projects that we did in there. And Habitat is around the idea of virtual playground, right?
So those of you who don't know, we kind of went over it last time, but we took advantage of this thing in German called a Zwischenvermieterung, and that's when a company is leaving a building and a new one is going to overtake it. And here in Germany, it's super nice that sometimes the companies will open up the space to people like artists or someone who wants to create an event. And this company did that. So the venue was called Voodoo. Our Berlin peeps will know what it is. And yeah, we went in there and we decided to create a habitat.
Yeah, it was around the idea of making a space that will be completely powered by people in a way that nothing would necessarily work until there was some kind of interaction from the audience. And that's why we went into the idea of playground. It's very like the power of game or like play is very interesting. I think you talked about it last time as well, Jen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the term was actually coined by Jesse Pino, another member of the squad. And yeah, we just wanted to prototype a bunch of different ideas that we had, and we were working with several different artists who have various skills and various projects that they wanted to try. So eventually it ended up being several cool installations, and we wanted to put it together. And he was like, man, it's sort of like a digital playground. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we really at Immersive love this idea of play because it's sort of a way of learning, in nature. And with us, it's when you play, you're actually training for the real world. Mm-hmm. And play is sort of a time where you have no boundaries. It's not a serious thing. There's not many stakes, and you feel free. You feel free to try stuff out. And that's what we wanted you to feel when you walked into this place, that you could interact with all of these installations with your guard down, have fun, and figure it out for yourself.
Because like seriously, you notice so much. I used to work in an art gallery, and you notice so much how when people come into a place like an art gallery where there's respect, or I don't know, there's people when they go in, they don't necessarily feel free to do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. They always are afraid of touching the art or even talking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
They're afraid to sound stupid, or they're literally afraid to do anything. But giving a dimension of play really breaks all those boundaries. Mm-hmm. That's why it's very interesting. Play in general. And yeah, and we try to bring it to art, mm-hmm. To visual art. And let's say, explore the concept of play itself, I think.
Because that's how you learn, in my opinion. Um, if you go in to this environment, right, we don't necessarily explain to you how to do it. We want you to exercise your own creativity. And the point behind this, or I mean, you could even go back to the point of immersive itself, is to sort of awaken this creative potential that we feel everyone has within themselves. So instead of explaining everything to you, which a lot of the times art will do, it's like explaining a joke. You just shouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need to, then it's not necessarily a good joke. So when you go into a typical art gallery and see these, like, you know, the cliche art critic or someone who has explained what they think
Mm-hmm.
the art means, and they
I
kind of
hate that.
I know, me too. It's like, oh, you should feel
I
peace
can't
when you look
stand.
at this, and it's
Mm-hmm.
all woo woo and airy fairy. Like, no, you should give the viewers credit for their own mind. You know, that's how you grow, that's how you learn, that's how you expand. How you practice your own creativity is when no one's explaining it to you, but you're free to play and free to touch, and then you kind of exercise it on your own. Like, you learn how to use our installations on your own, and then you also find your personal meaning
On
of
the
the art.
on this note, do you remember, Jen, when we went to that gallery here in Berlin? We paid, I think, 12 euros. Was the only way to get into this gallery was with a guided tour.
Which gallery was it?
I don't remember the name.
Berlinischer?
No. It was a gallery that you can get in only with a guided tour,
Oh
and
yeah.
only half an hour, or like only 1 hour, whatever the fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't get it, because we were literally just going around with this dude. He was designing whatever he was talking about, like exactly like how I used to do it. I used to decide like what to talk about, because
When
I
you were
wasn't
working in the gallery.
when I was working in the gallery, because I couldn't be bothered about like some of the stuff. So
And
it
to
was
be
like,
fair, a lot of people don't know. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, some people will pay for these things because they want someone to explain it. Like, they just go to art galleries because they think that it's a fancy thing to do, and they want someone to be like, oh, well, this means love, and this means this, and this means that. Some people just literally don't want to think.
Mm.
But yeah, that gallery was.
And I was feeling super frustrated, because first of all, in some of the things that I wanted to spend a little bit more time in, or a little bit more time looking about it and thinking about it, I was getting inspired. Those moments, he was going super fast, and I couldn't stay behind, because in this gallery you have to stay in time, because the other people coming from the back, whatever.
That was the thing that pissed me off, dude. Like, I'm literally in the moment, and the rest of the group is going ahead. Like, fine, sure, take everyone else ahead. But if I want to sit and observe a piece of artwork, which is what I came and what I paid for, then let me enjoy it. They're literally like, no, come, you have to stay with the group.
Also, to be honest, if you remember, there was a turkey in a washing machine, and he completely skipped the turkey in a washing machine.
Who doesn't want to see that, dude?
I mean, come on. I wanted to see that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, at least making a space where this type of situation don't exist at all, it's already a win, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least bringing the idea of freedom and like playfulness, and taking away that pressure that society or like a space can give you.
Or at least giving that second option. You know, it can still be aesthetically pleasing, and you can, like, people should still be able to go into this exhibition and look at the art for what it is, and not necessarily do anything and still have a good time. But then, like, there should, in my opinion, be this extra layer where you can interact with it if you want to, and go even deeper like inception into the piece if you so choose.
In my opinion, also the beauty about technology and what computing is doing to us is that because computers can take so much data and can use all this data in real time to do and to transform it into other possible visual output or sounds or whatever, you can also play with all these interactions, meaning that when a person really plays and like move an object or like put it in that place or whatever, you can really get all this interaction and have it like a very interesting and powerful real life output that can be seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people forget that there's literally a hand brain connection when you're experiencing the world. We've traditionally learned through touching, through handling stuff, like poking around. That's how we understand. Like, it's more connected than we think. We understand through our senses, not just by looking at something and having someone being explained to. Anyone who took a freaking, like, went to high school understands that. You can't have someone sitting there lecturing you about chemistry without actually doing the experiment yourself and seeing how certain things react with each other. Like, even if I'm watching someone doing the experiment in front of me, it's not as effective as me like trying to learn and failing and finally getting it right. Like, one of my favorite analogies to help get this idea across is this idea of the missile. And I think I heard it in a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is a pretty famous book. Definitely go read that. But he describes the concept of humans learning through feedback, and he gave the analogy of a missile who is going toward their destination. Like, if they're going to go bomb something, let's say it's a nice missile, let's say it's just going into the ocean somewhere. So if you get positive feedback, that means that you're on the right track. You should continue going that way towards this location in the ocean. Great. If you get negative feedback, it just means to correct course. But either way, we're learning through mistake making. We're learning through this feedback. So explain to me how I'm supposed to learn without getting any feedback whatsoever. We want people to get something more out of these art experiences than typically. We want you to come away learning something or having some sort of insight. And that's almost impossible without getting any feedback. And you don't get any feedback without failing, mistake making, poking around, and trying these things. That's one of the best analogies that I have heard.
Right.
Of how humans learn.
Yeah. You really literally like this missile analogy is so good because literally a missile always gets pretty much negative feedbacks, but all this negative feedback kind of sum up to the right path, you know, when it's going a little bit left, it's going right.
Yeah, so for those, side note, for those of you going through life and hitting failure after failure, literally take it as that. Be like, man, all these failures are just feedback helping me to adjust course. Don't take it personally. Like, the missile doesn't take all this negative feedback to heart. It literally takes it as a steering guide to get it towards its destination. So for everyone out there struggling, take the negative feedback as something positive, ironically.
And Habitat, if you remember, was a really interesting and important piece into IMRSV, because we started thinking about the idea of, let's say, getting all these interactions, and these interactions could actually be data that can be used to generate some sort of new experience, but virtual. So like happening on the web, for example, or happening on other virtual like platforms.
Yeah, the playground can extend into the digital space.
Yeah,
like
so
into
you
the
actually
cloud.
have the the um, the visual representation of all these mistakes and the way that you overcome it, overcome it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you're working towards, what is actually the right answer, let's say.
I like that how you just said it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like virtualizing your mistakes, like virtually representing your mistakes. Because I always love this idea of like digital trash, which could mean like whatever is expelled, whatever is the remnants of an event that just occurred.
Mm.
So like if someone's having like a housewarming party or like a bachelorette party, whatever you want to do, and you invite all your friends over and like you have a great time, all the male strippers swinging dicks in your face, like, whoa, great party, great party. And then the next morning you wake up, you're all hungover, you get out of bed, look around, you see all the dildos everywhere, condoms, and you're reminded by all this trash of what happened that night. And it's almost poetic in a way. It's like, dude, we had a great fucking time last night. Not advocating dildos and like strippers and stuff, but
you talk about you.
Just saying, that's how I like to party.
That's how I like to party.
No, but this idea of like the remnants of something that happened between humans, I think is very, very beautiful. And now, like you said, we're able to capture that digital trash. Like if we're interacting, it's not just looking around at like all the condoms on the floor, but you actually have virtual data that came from that night, which it lasts way longer than a condom. So you can actually have from this idea of a virtual playground, or even call it a virtual party, if you will, a digital party. Like,
and from this stuff come a lot of interest also in education. Actually, we were talking about it many times with the idea of using technology and art as a way to study. You know, Jen, a lot more about this. It's usually called art-based research, right? So, so
Marco choked on a leftover condom that was on.
Please, Jen, keep going. I'll go die in the back.
It's called arts-based research, and
arts-based research.
Yeah, it's actually not as known, but most artists do it without knowing it. It's just the concept of using artistic based methods, so drawing or like just creating anything for the purpose of inquiry and for the purpose of researching a certain thing that you're interested in. And that's what most artists do, but they haven't necessarily put a name to it. It's sort of like just mixing philosophy and art, or it can even become scientific if you want. But yeah, this is a huge piece in like, or a huge repercussion of habitat.
But that could be also like another thing could be to actually use technology itself and the tools that technology is built on, like coding and programming, blah blah blah, all these things, to give really a base for like young people, kids, or thing like this to actually work and learn about the world that we live in right now. We were thinking about a possible immersive arts school, based on this kind of concepts. And it all starts from the idea of a digital playground. We would get the idea of teaching the world to people, and through creativity, through making them working on failing on some of the projects that we make, and learning the world through the thing that technology is built on, like new technology, like yeah, I don't know,
Yeah,
math or
it's
whatever you need to for a specific art project.
yeah, it's a new way of learning, like we were just talking. Instead of having someone lecture at you, it's project based. So you can think of an installation as like a facilitator for some end goal, which is your project.
Mm-hmm.
So if the object of the installation is to, I don't know, create a flying mechanism, like that's part of the installation, then you playing with the art piece and trying to get to this point of creating a cool flying digital mechanism. As you're building it, you're learning how to build it. So maybe there's some mathematics included into creating something that flies, or like some geometry, or some um, all of these different subjects can go into some end goal. And instead of being taught mathematics separately, or science separately, or whatever separately, you're learning all of these little things piece by piece for a reason, like for a purpose, because you want to build this flying mechanism in the end. And it actually motivates you more because you're trying to get to this end goal. That's what you're concerned about. You're not necessarily concerned about getting an A.
Yeah.
You're concerned about building this project. So having this this end goal in mind first, and this idea of play and learning from positive and negative feedback is kind of, I think, the future. Because this system that we have now of uni and like paying $100,000 for a semester at a university just to learn these separate subjects is kind of failing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like it either.
Yeah.
And just imagine if every artist kind of takes this idea of including also the viewer inside the entire project, entire the artistic project, because the project itself becomes a self-learning mechanism. You set up as an artist the boundaries and the rules of the game, and while you can record all the failing, all the problems that the viewers has for these projects, and for example the errors that they make, they can all be looked very much like on a visual way, and then the artist himself can learn from these things and change the project and mold it on to be like the best experience that you can have. It becomes really a self-learning mechanism, and
it's an entire system.
It's like a system that it stays on its yeah.
The artist becomes the facilitator in a way. Like you're guiding these people, like you said, to some certain thing, and then you can help them, or you can learn where they're going with it if they're failing, and then you can adjust the system and facilitate some other learning. But what's cool about it, like staying on this thing of arts-based research, is that in Habitat specifically and in other exhibitions, we were those artists / facilitators. We created those installations, and then we opened the doors and let a bunch of people come in and test these art pieces or products, whatever you want to call it. And we observed, and it was really interesting to see the human behavior that was coming out of them, just being super free, super laid back, and interacting with these pieces. So we almost turned into scientists. But had we have created the installations in a more scientific way, then maybe we could have come with some more interesting conclusions. But these were just for entertainment for this time around.
Yeah, for this time, yes.
Yeah, but we like to talk with Immersive about the potential uses of these things, because we don't want to just create arbitrary art pieces all the time. Like, of course, that's fun, but I think Immersive has a grander scope and a grander vision for why we're creating these things. We don't just want you to have fun, but we eventually want to use these prototypes for something a little more,
let's say, educational,
yeah.
maybe something that would actually teach, or like that you can learn something from it. For example, most of the installation that we can think about could have easily some social or like anthropological interest, or maybe even scientific, like on a, I don't know, whatever sense, um, can be used as maybe architectural study. I can think that if you can see how people move inside a certain space, you can find so many interesting input and inspiration from this kind of experiences, because you can see, oh, okay, this group of people, when there's this thing here, they go this way, but then they don't divide perfectly in half. Like, you see, you
Mm-hmm.
can literally record and
Adjust and stuff.
yeah, and learn from this.
Like, let's put it in a more concrete example so that people can understand. Um, I think there's a famous experiment. I can't remember what it is, but it's the one with the monkey, the baby monkey.
Mm.
And they want to see whether the baby monkey is more interested in living, so in eating and getting food, or more social. So they create these two fake mothers, because obviously it's a baby monkey, it needs a mom. One of these are very cold, it's just a machine, metal machine, and it has milk dispensed from it. So it's giving life, it's giving sustenance, it's food. And then another one gives no food, and it's more plush, like it's more like a stuffed animal, it's more um, warm, cozy, blah, blah, blah. Another aspect of what a mom is. So this is some small example of what an artist could set up. You could set up some sort of piece that people or your participants are supposed to interact with, like two separate things. Say you're trying to represent a mom. You pick two qualities of what you think a mother is, and then you let people interact with it. So in this specific experiment, the monkey surprisingly starved itself and went toward the plush monkey because it wanted more like warmth. It wanted to feel loved almost, which was very surprising for those scientists. So imagine if an artist set up something else, you let like some audience in, some participants, and you can observe which installation that they interact with more. And now with the technology that we have, we can record those interactions instead of being like just an observer in the corner of the room watching how people interact. You can have hardcore evidence, like, okay, this part of the installation was touched more people were interacting with this, versus the other one they were completely ignoring. And now you have a digital representation of this. These are hardcore, like, in my opinion, this is science. Like, this is just as legitimate, just as justifiable as a typical science experiment. And you can draw conclusions from it just like you can from science. But it's framed in this artistic sense where people who come in don't feel like they're being researched. They feel free enough to actually participate with the installation that they genuinely feel like they want to participate with. So in argument, you could actually say that this version is a little more real because they feel free, because it's an art installation.
And itself, they can get so much inspiration, which is what you want from art in the first place, from any kind of art. Well, that sounds perfect. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Marco.
We are at the end of the episode. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I remember that if you want to talk to us and send us your comments, blah, 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 you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Immersive Arts. And we have a website, immersivearts.com, in case you want to see what we do and some of the projects that we might have at that time. Um,
As always, subscribe to our SoundCloud.
yeah, that's
Like,
true.
follow us. That'd be super nice if you enjoy what you're hearing. Give us a comment, give us a like, give us a follow. And I personally would be interested in hearing if you guys have some art space research experiments, ideas that you would like to see happen, because that's what we're all about.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can't wait to hear from you guys, and I'll see you in the next episode.
In the next life.
Bye.
See ya.